Hi, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. But today we're going to do our second webinar on FoodSense. So FoodSense Generation 4 is an ingredients testing system. So when I sort of say FoodSense Generation 4, it sounds like I'm talking in the abstract, but if, in front of me I have a FoodSense Generation 4. I actually have some sensors here, and in a bit we'll be doing some chili sensing. I've got my colleague online with me, but we're pretty used to testing things like hot sauces on this, oils on this, chili powders on this, chili flakes on this, chili purees on this. Bit of an old favorite of ours, not that we do that much testing these days, so this is also Tabasco sauce. So FoodSense Generation 4 is a pretty versatile instrument for testing the hotness of chilies, chili products, oleo resins, etc. So that's what we'll be dealing with this afternoon. If you're so interested, the app. So we've got what we will have is some hardware called a Chili Sense meter. That's in Bluetooth connection with my phone. So in a bit you'll see a live demo, one from myself and one from my colleague Solrun. If you're so interested, the app does actually exist on the App Store. But don't install it unless you've actually got a meter, because the first thing it's going to look for is a Bluetooth connection with the meter. So it's available from Apple, and it's also available from Google as well. So it's, let's say, well distributed. That app is really a conduit which is in connection with something we call Julie. So FoodSense Generation 4 is a technology for measuring the Scoville Heat Unit of various chili products. And what's very cool about it is it's driven by an app that you can install on your smartphone. The app makes Bluetooth connection with the meter. The meter runs the sample, gives the results back to the phone. The phone shows you the result, and all the data is stored on the cloud. So that means that at any time you can go back, find your data, find out who did it, find out what time they did it, find out what date they did it, and actually find the raw signal. And that's something I'll dig into a little bit more. So we can do chilies on this, we can do ginger on this, we could do pH on this, we could do total antioxidative capacity on this, and we can also do glucose on this as well. It's certainly rapid. And when I say rapid, you'll see most of these assays take 30 seconds. I'm realizing that there's 3 stages to this. There's the sample preparation. So the sample preparation might be measuring out a volume or weighing out amount of material. Then there's the capsaicin extraction. Now the capsaicin extraction, if it's something like a chili sauce like Tabasco, this is very liquidy. So that's actually quite easy to extract, and that you can literally do that in a few seconds. If it's something more complicated, like a chili powder, we actually leave it extracted for quite some time, because the capsaicin is physically bound up inside those chili powders. And I think it would even be worse in the case of chili flakes, because there the surface to volume ratio there's less surface to volume ratio. Things like actually doing a hot sauce like the bomb are quite straightforward, because the bomb has already got the capsaicin mostly in the liquid. There's 3 stages to doing the testing of a chili product. There's the sample prep, that can be quite quick, but then there's an extraction phase that can be quite quick, or it is quick if it's certainly in the liquid phase. But if it's in the solid phase, it can take longer. We don't mind if it's actually an oil, because at least in the oil, the capsaicin is already all dissolved into that. So rapid test, but we can talk about the extraction. Definitely a low cost per test. I think the lowest cost you can get in the USA is $50, but the turnaround time is probably very slow. Um, the lowest cost that we found so far globally is in India, and that might be a lowest cost of 25 US dollars. The lowest cost in Europe is more like $100. So when you look at, I'm holding up a row of these now. One of these little sensors that I've just got my finger on now is about €3.50. So it's definitely the lowest cost, and is actually the most rapid cost, the most rapid test as well. It's very objective. What I mean by objective is you'll see 2 of us do a demo this afternoon, so it's worth hanging on to see this happen in real time. And what you might like about it is we'll give you a result, a nice simple result, Scoville Heat Units on the phone. So we'll get the results on the app. because the app's in Bluetooth connection with the meter, but we'll also be able to show the raw data as well. And that's really important because it's not just some black box. So if you send a sample out for HPLC, you send the sample out, you get a result back, you absolutely no idea what really happened. You just get the certificate of analysis and you say, oh, okay, that must be correct. Really? Really? I mean, where, what else do you know about it? Whereas with this, you're actually going to find out that, or rather, you will get to see the raw data. So if we do start showing you what that raw data means this afternoon in this webinar, you could consider that really for advanced users. If you just want to start going, you can just get a number, and that hopefully that number, you can just write the number down, Scoville Heat Units. Transparency just means that we're not trying to hide anything. The raw data is up in the cloud. Traceability means you know who did it, when they did it, what time they did it, and the sample name as well. So it's all connected. So this is very good for, really, it's intended for businesses that are producing or handling chilies, and it's part of what you can call IQC, incoming quality control, PQC, process quality control, or OQC, outgoing quality control. It's probably the only technology that allows you to do process quality control. So what I would mean by that is, if you're a producer of a hot sauce, whilst producing that sauce, how do you know what the hotness of it is? And the answer is people don't really know. They're sort of assuming, and they may be using organoleptic testing, which means just tasting. But the problem with organoleptic testing is it's not objective, it's subjective. So if somebody is slightly more sensitive or less sensitive, then they could be making batch to batch variations just based on their personal sensitivity. It's much better if you're trying to do process quality control and produce a consistent product that you're actually objectively measuring it. And what this product is doing, what this FoodSense Generation 4 is doing, is actually measuring the capsaicin directly. That'll be part of the webinar, let's say this afternoon. If you've seen our YouTube channels, you'll know that we've done spicy mayos, we've done spicy sauces, we've done spicy chili oils, spicy honey. I mean, I think this is what, this is probably the only technology that can actually deal with quite complex matrices, including oils, sauces, honey, which you can imagine what the viscosity on that is like, super hot sauces, chili powders, chilies themselves, and also a layer resins as well. A layer resins is where this is something that's on the market, probably used more on the kind of business to business side of things, where they've extracted the capsaicin into an organic solvent and then they've evaporated off all the organic solvent. You're left with a sort of black tar that's got a high level of capsaicin in it. And also the last video here is actually Solomon testing ginger. So it's not just chili, but the reason we're slightly emphasizing chili in this particular webinar, it's just what most people are actually buying it for. So we can do multi-analyte and multi-ingredients testing, but chili is sort of let's say the thing that most people seem to be interested in. Zimmer Pivot, we're the company behind this. We were launched in 2014. We are ISO 13485, so we have a really good quality system. Actually, and one of the things I would say about our quality system is what we're shipping is a very high quality product. We've made sure that the sensors are checked before they go. The hardware is really excellent, and you'll see this in a short while actually, that we're on generation 4 of this product, and Solomon's one of the instigators for us getting us to generation 4. And of course, when you're on generation 4, can you imagine, this has been 5 years, so far, and more than, and actually, so every time you do a generation, you say, what can I have learned from the previous generation? And then you implement the improvements. So we're in a very good place with FoodSense Generation 4. It's very international, very multidisciplinary team behind this. And it really reflects all the kind of, I mean, when you look at a product like this, there's a manufacturing element to this, there's an electronics element to this, there's a mechanical element to this, there's a chemistry element to this, there's something called electrochemical element to this, there's a software element to this, there's app development element to this. There's so many skill sets required, and so FoodSense Generation 4 is really the distillation of a lot of people's time and skills that have gone into this. If you ever become a FoodSense Generation 4 user, and we hope you do, you'll get personalized online training. This morning, we were up at something like 7:30 a.m. supporting our clients in China, giving them training, answering questions, doing real-time demos with them. we didn't necessarily know what they would wanted to test, but we had so many samples in front of us, we were able to just, pull a sample. And one gentleman asked, well, how do you test a chili oil? And we were able to say, well, here's a chili oil, and we were able to start doing some testing for him on chili oils in real time. So if you ever decide to become a FoodSense Generation 4 client, you should know that we do some excellent online training. You'll see that Solomon and I, and we have really well-equipped, really quite well-equipped labs, and we have instruments dotted around the world. And we do weekly webinars. You will, if you're so interested, and you're ever subscribed to our YouTube channel, you'll see a webinar pop up once a week where actually we're answering technical questions that come in. And we also do monthly webinars. This is the monthly webinar. We do two monthly webinars on the same day. One in the morning, because actually we have clients in Australia, we have clients in India, we have clients in China, we have clients in Indonesia, we have clients in Malaysia. And then we do one in the afternoon, because then we have clients in South America, Central America, and North America. So we like to cover the globe, and this is a really kind of global community of people using FoodSense Generation 4. This is a really good example. Last week, we were doing some training for clients in South Korea, and they wanted to test chili powder, and they wanted our help to make sure that they had good precision. Now at ZP, we really understand our statistics, so we know the difference between accuracy and precision, and they wanted good precision, so we made sure that we helped them with that. We ended up writing them an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So we knew what their sample was, we knew what they were trying to get out of the, let's say, the test, and we ended up writing them a document around it. But we did it because they're a client. And that was just part of the service. And of course, it helps improve us, it helps improve the experience for everyone else. So we're very interested in finding out what people are doing, what problems they're having, and then solving those problems. And I think that's, when you look at the product, it's a product with a physical element to it, and it's a product with a sort of non-tangible element to it, which is actually the backing of Zimmer and Peacock behind it. So we wrote them an SOP, and we showed them how to get much better what we call relative standard deviations. That's another sort of, it's a fancy way of saying precision. History of FoodSense, I did mention this. We're on Generation 4. So Generation 1 was a big, well, not big, it wasn't that big, but it was bigger than a phone, silver box where we used to slot the sensors in the front. Generation 4, Generation 2 rather, we improved it by making the box black and slightly smaller. Generation 3, we made the box slightly smaller, but we were then listening to our own clients and our own customers, and we used to do what was called slotting sensors in the front. But we would find out that actually the slot would allow ingression of liquid, and so we learned our lessons, and now we make a much more robust, let's say, instrument without any slots on it. So there's always something you can learn, and there's always something you can improve. So we're very proud now of where we're at with this Generation 4. I think one of the things that I really like about Generation 4 is how simple it is to use. We don't have to train people in order to use Generation 4. When we train people, what we're doing is improving their experience on it. We're not actually training them. And the little video that's playing here now, these two engineers are completely untrained. In fact, they've just, listened to a few videos. They picked up quick enough, they were sharp enough, and actually they were then able to use it. And they're testing a slightly unusual sample there, which is a kind of spicy salt. I think it's actually from Nando's. But this is an instrument that you can actually give to children, and it's intuitive enough that they can get it. So it's nice and small. It's definitely easy to use. So please don't write to me saying it's hard to use, because I would just cannot accept that. It is definitely accurate. And the accuracy is really coming about because of the cloud connectivity, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So there's the cloud connectivity. It's also multi-analyte as well. We do find that most people are actually buying this for the because they want to measure the capsaicin or the Scoville Heat Unit of that sample. So chili is what, but we will have a secondary in ginger as well. And we'd be super interested to hear what other analytes that people are actually interested in testing, especially in the kind of food ingredients market. I'm slightly going off topic here, but we have realized that chilies are being adulterated with dyes. And so we are going to do a Sudan dyes. Now, I know this was a bit of a stink in New York State um, about 10 years ago, about 12 years ago, but it's probably still going on today. So if you see a very bright chili powder or paprika powder, it's possibly got Sudan dye on it. And this system is capable of spotting adulteration as well. With that said, things that have really improved are some of the mechanical capabilities. So at Zimmer Peacock, we 100% designed this, built this, and a really excellent engineer that we got in product design has really helped to give a really lovely user experience. It's super easy to use. I can use it, Solron can use it, and also even the youngest members of the team are able to use it. We can tell the unit what to do just by a series of QR codes. So if you ever do get hold of one of these, in the manual, it will very quickly tell you where to get the app, and it will very quickly tell you, here's a QR code, for example, for chili, and essentially off you go. So a very nice and intuitive unit. We used to ship it in a little white box, but something that has improved slightly, and I'm just reaching behind me to get it. Do get it in a really nice little case these days. So we have a little case. It is tough. The whole unit is small. It's got its own little insert, and it just sits inside there. You obviously, when you buy this, you get 100 sensors with it. You get 500 milliliters of buffer with it, and you get the unit itself. And I will be testing the unit shortly as well. So it's a good lot of stuff in the box, and it's super well packaged, and really helps you kind of store this, and I want to say kind of keep it safe. But and the manual is something that we're pretty proud of, actually, because when we had Generation 1, Generation 2, and Generation 3, I would always insist on training people. But then when we launched Generation 4, I started finding that people were just getting on with it, and it's all, I was like, what's going on here? And I should have realized, really, but again, the engineers at ZP have a really good intuition for the kind of ease of use. So this manual is very thin, but this manual is not thin because, in fact, it lacks details. Its thinness actually reflects the ease of use of the instrument. So people are using it, they're not even asking questions, they're actually just getting on with it. So now what we may do then is, once you're getting on with it, we can come in and give you online training and help you get even better with it and give you tricks and tips. But the actual use of this is not, in fact, we've had nobody so far who wasn't able to open the box, download the apps, and actually start getting data. So as I say, these QR codes actually will show you that this FoodSense app is available on the Google Store or on the App Store. And then it's pretty useless to install the app unless you've got the hardware, but chili's on there, ginger's on there, pH is on there, total antioxidative capacity is on there, glucose is on there. What you'll find out is, and I'll do a demo in a minute, so this will make it much simpler, that the sensor goes into the meter. The meter is told what to do by the app that is on your phone, and the app is in Bluetooth connection with the device. So the app tells the meter what to do. The meter runs the assay. The meter gives the data back to the app, and the app then sends that to the cloud, and you get a Scoville Heat Unit on your phone. And importantly, you also get the raw data saved in the cloud. I'm not trying to make you like what we call electrochemists or electroanalytical scientists, but it is nice to know that actually whenever we make a claim, or sorry, when the instrument gives you a number, it's actually got the evidence for where that number came from, all stored on the cloud. So if you're kind of working with a supermarket and there's a sort of complaint, or it's there's inconsistency in the hotness of your product, then actually we've got the evidence. And let's say it was a bit more serious than that. Actually, somebody said, "Oh well, the chili powder was adulterated with a Sudan dye." Actually, we would have the evidence whether that was the case or not. So it's really good for that kind of verification that things are what we say they are. Like I say, I'm not trying to actually turn people into electrochemists, but you will see this data as part of our webinar in a minute. Capsaicin is a very unique molecule. It has what we call a fingerprint. So we get the raw signal for the capsaicin, and we don't show the raw signal on the app, but we store the raw signal in the cloud. So if you ever need to troubleshoot or talk to Zimmer and Peacock, then just know that the raw signal is saved up there. And I'm not going to talk about it now, but there are 3 peaks in the raw signal. One of them we call peak 1. This is peak 1 here. That's the first indication it's capsaicin. Then we have something we call peak 2, and will be peak 2 here, and that will be the second indication. So just wait for this animation to peak 1, first indication that this is capsaicin. And then the meter will carry on collecting data, and then we'll get what's called a peak 2, and that will be the second indicator that this is capsaicin. So that's so 2 bits of evidence, but we're not happy with 2 bits of evidence. We actually want to have 3 bits of evidence. So in fact, then we will go to, so I'm just going to count through here. So this is what the meter does. It collects peak 1. It will then collect what's called peak 2. And all the time, the software is looking at these peaks, analyzing this fingerprint, and first of all, making sure it's capsaicin. If there is any adulteration or any contaminations, we'll also spot them as well. And here goes peak 3, and 1, 2, and 3 means this is definitely capsaicin. So like I say, I'm not here to try and, let's say, make you electrochemists. You can still remain food scientists, food technologists, or quality managers, but it's just to give you some confidence that there's a real, let's say, science behind what's happening. How many times do you have a piece of technology or a measurement piece of equipment in the lab, and actually it just gives a number and everyone just believes it? Now, what I want to do is I want to show you that capsaicin is not a very soluble molecule. So we say if something is mild, and when I say mild, like a chili sauce like Tabasco, we say do a 1 in 10 dilution of the sample and then test the sample. If it's a bit hotter, maybe a chili oil like this, we would say do a 1 in 100 dilution of the sample. If it's something a bit hotter, like a chili powder, we may say do a 1 in 100 dilution. But with a chili powder, we might also say leave it standing for some time, because the capsaicin is in a solid form here and we need to get it extracted. If it's a hot sauce like this, then we might do a 1 in 1000 dilution. Now, you may say, well, I don't know what my product is. Well, sometimes actually you probably do have an indication of how hot your product is. But I just want to show you, I want to be quick about it, but I just want to show you that the product's actually quite smart, and it will actually guide you in. So what I'll do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'm going to, sorry, I'm just going to change the camera for a second, which is probably what it's doing now. I've got a FoodSense Generation 4 in front of me. I've got a sensor on here, but I'm just going to pull that sensor off, and I'm going to put a fresh sensor on. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that I know is deliberately going to give me, when I say an error, it's not an error, it's guidance. So what I'm going to do now is I have the app. The app is in Bluetooth connection with my phone. I'm going to take an unknown sample. The first thing you should note about this is the sample itself. It's unknown in terms of its hotness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably have to get a clean vial. So let me just grab a clean vial. So let me just do that now. Yeah, so I've got the clean vial. So I'm going to take a sample of it, and I am going to take 100 microliters of the sauce, and I'm going to do a dilution of it. So let me just do that. So I take the sauce, I flip the lid off, I collect 100 microliters, which I've now got. I put that into a tube, which I'm doing now. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dilute it with 900 microliters of buffer. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm doing a 1 in 10 dilution. The system is much more easy to use than previous generations, because we only offer 1 in 10 dilution, 1 in 100 dilution, 1 in 1000 dilution, 1 in 10,000 dilution. So let me just do a dilution like that. And what I'm going to now do is I'm going to just vortex it really quickly. You'll see Solrun do this as well. She's got a slightly better setup than me, so you'll see that it's a little bit clearer. But I've just vortexed it. This is the sample. It doesn't matter that the sample is cloudy, etc. what I'll do is I'm just going to give this a name. So I'm going to call it demo 110. So that reminds me then that I did a 1 in 10 dilution. And then I'm actually going to put 50 microliters onto the sensor. So I will do that now. So I just flip the cap open, pull out 50 microliters using my pipette. I'm going fast, by the way. You know, I would like you to be a bit less slapdash than I'm being now, but for the sake of a live streaming webinar, I'm going to be quick. Go to assay. Solon will show you this better, but I'm choosing what's called the 1 in 10 sample. I do start measurement. Now you get a really nice user experience. There's not a lot of complexity to this user experience. There's just a progress bar now going around because actually the instrument is running what's called an electrochemical measurement. I've also got a flashing light on the front of my unit here, which tells me that everything's working okay. And the reason I'm doing this experiment is because I've done a 1 in 10 dilution on an unknown sample. And what it said to me is, and I'll change cameras just super quickly, let's say. Let me just do that. What it said to me is this. I'll read it to you. It says, too high, dilute more, upload complete. You know, so what does all that kind of mean? So too high means too much capsaicin. Dilute more says 1 in 10 was not enough. I therefore tried 1 in 100. And upload complete means the data went to the cloud. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to very quickly just share my screen with you, super quick. And you remember I said I called it demo 1 in 10. So when I look at the raw signal, see, I can see this massive peak here, and I can see the peaks here. So I know that they told me that it was actually quite concentrated. But what I'm now going to do, and I can confirm that because I can actually see the raw data up in the cloud. What I'm now going to do is it's told me that it's too high, dilute more. So I'll do that. There's too much capsaicin, and I need to dilute more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change cameras for a second, go back to my little setup in front of me, flip out the sensor, which I will do. Flip out that sensor, take another sensor. You only have to do this once, by the way, because you'll very quickly understand where your samples are in terms of their hotness. So that sensor's in there. This is my 1 in 10 diluted product. And in fact, what I want to do is find a 100 microliter pipette, which I've just done. I'll get myself a clean tube, which I will pull here. I'm just going to flip open the lid on my sample. I'm going to take out 100 microliters. This is just helping me to dial in what the right dilution actually is. I put 100 microliters into there. Good. I'm going to take 900 microliters of my buffer, which I'm doing now. There we go. I would ask you just to be a little bit more, thorough than I'm necessarily being. But it does prove the point about, it is actually quite easy to use, or rather is easy to use. And you can also do these things kind of very rapidly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 50 microliters on the sensor. I'm just going to call this 1 in 100, which is what I've done there. I'll put the sample on, and then we will do a test. When I've completed this test, then my colleague Soren will also do another demo, just to kind of give you a certainty that it's not just me. There's several of us that, we're all trained up to do this kind of work. So I'll just go to assay. I must remember to say it's 1 in 100, which I've now done, and then I'll do the start measurements, and then it's doing it again. The reason I do this is because I know I'm showing you raw data, but the reason I'm showing you raw data is just to give you this confidence that actually we do have the raw data. If you ever get stuck, it's for you to invite us to look at your raw data. Your raw data, by the way, is saved behind your username and password. But you can see that actually, we're able to support people in South Korea, in Australia, in China, in South America, in Central America. So now I've come back to the result of 19,900 Scoville heat units. I'll just change my camera so you can see that. So I'll just read it off a bit. It's a bit bright, I know, but I will read it to you. It says Scoville heat units 19,900, and it says upload complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to when it says upload complete, it means something, and it means that all the raw data has gone to the cloud. So when I go up here, I'll spring that open. I can see the peaks. I can see I can basically see, when I was doing those little slides earlier on, I talked about peak 1, 2, and 3. So there's peak 1, there's peak 2, and there's peak 3. This is capsaicin, and then we've measured the peak as well, and then we've actually calculated that it was 19,900 Scoville heat units. So what I might do at this point then is actually I will stop sharing. I'll be turning my camera off, but my colleague Solron will be doing, let's say, a second demo. Hi, Solron.
Hey.
And hi. Cool. So I'll turn my camera off. I'll mute and let you do a quick demo as well. Thanks so much.
All right. So my name is Olren, and I will quickly run through a test with you. So today we will be testing a bit more spicy sauce. So it's quite pungent. So that is why we're gonna choose a mixture ratio of 1 to 1,000. So we will just shake it a bit just to make sure that we get as much of a homogeneous sample as possible when we're sampling it. And then we can go to the app. The app has a very good guiding. So if we click the go to assay, it will tell us what to do. So I've already chosen the chili sensor assay, and I've also changed some of the test settings just so that it's easier for me to sort through the cloud after. So these test settings, is not necessary to change the settings, but it just makes it easier for you because it will also give them a timestamp, or your results will have a timestamp and a date stamp. So you will be able to sort through your data anyways, but it just makes it easier. Also on what cluster to upload and so forth. This is the FoodSense device that Martin was showing, and we've designed it as we use these almost every day, and they need to be easy to clean, and they're made for a lab environment. So there's put a lot of thought into the design behind it. And then we also have the cartridge, and this is also designed so that's easy to manage and easy to put into the device itself, and easy not to spill on it. So the first thing I'll do is what is said in the instructions. So place and lock the cartridge. We also need to mix a sample. So as I said, we will do a 1 to 1,000 mixture ratio. So I'll just change that right away, just like that. And then the next thing I'll do is I will prepare the sample. So I will have the close-up view. So I'll use a weighing tip like that, just to put some of the sauce onto it, so it's easier for my pipette to some of the sauce. So just like that. And then in order for me to do a 1 to 1,000 mixture ratio, I will have to do 40 microliters of the chili sample and 40,000 microliters, in other words, 40 milliliters of the chili buffer. So I will start by pipetting 40 milliliter into the tube. So
as you do that, so just do that, because as you do that, I realize that obviously you're doing 40, I think it's 40 milligrams into 40 milliliters. If people are skilled enough, you could basically do 4 milligrams into 4, or actually not 4. I've got to go help me with my maths here, actually. But you can decrease the mass and therefore decrease the volume. But of course, you would do the 40 milligrams because you would be interested in the accuracy. But if people can be more accurate with less mass, then you can basically reduce the buffer. So that's a kind of a personal choice, that if you want to preserve or conserve buffer, reduce that mass, but you have to be accurate. So when we're doing things like quick like this, and also I would also suggest, as I know Solon's doing this, but the thing about chili products is they're very heterogeneous. This is something that nobody really thinks about, that capsaicin is not evenly distributed throughout a chili product. So the bigger the mass that you're testing, the more representative it is of the total population. But I think I'm probably going off on one slightly here, so I'll just be quiet for a second. But let's go ahead, Soren.
No, but I think that's a really good point. And especially if you do have a heterogeneous solution, I would use more sample. But if you have a very homogeneous liquidy sample, like Tabasco or something like that, you can have a smaller sample because it would be representative for the sample you're taking. But if you have very chunky samples, then of course you would need more sample as well. So here's the tube with 40 milliliters of the chili buffer, and then I'll pipette 40 microliters of the chili sauce. This is a bit chunky, so just be patient. And also, like, if it's very chunky, you might sometimes want to even weigh it out rather than pipetting it. That might help you a bit, just to make it easier for yourself.
I mean, I agree with that statement. If it's thin enough, I would use a pipette like Soren's doing. But that what she's got there is just on the edge of it. But if it's a bit more viscous or it is a solid, then you will weigh it out.
Yeah. All right. So manage, and then I will show the close-up view, like here, and it's a bit blurry, but you can see that the sample has fallen down to the bottom of the tube. So what we want to do is we want to distribute that sauce into the buffer. So what we will do is we'll use the vortex just to make as much of a homogeneous solution as possible and allow that capsaicin to extract from that sauce into the buffer. And this buffer is a buffer designed by us, and it has different properties, among others being electrolytic and also making the perfect environment for chilies to be tested. So it is a smart solution that you do need for your testing. So if you look at the sample right now, sometimes you can see that there are small particles floating around. This sample isn't too chunky, so you don't see the really big particles right now, but there are some flakes and bits floating around, which then, of course, it will mean that we will pipette some of those particles onto the sensor when we're testing it, and that's all right. The sensor can handle some chunks and bits in the buffer. So I'll show the close-up view again, just to show you that I'm pipetting onto the sensing area of the sensor. So the sensing area of the sensor is where you see those electrodes, those different colored ones, not the blue area. So I'm pipetting 50 microliters onto the sensing area, just like the app told me to do. And here we go. And then I will swap screens. So now I'll click Start Measurements. So now it's running through those cyclical tomograms that Martin was talking about. And not to geek out on the electrochemistry, but right now what it's doing, it's assessing those peaks that Martin was showing and calculating just how much capsaicin we do have in our sample in particular. So, and it's fairly quick. It takes a bit less than 30 seconds. And in this time, it's also uploading the data to Julie and analyzing it. So the results came back, and we have a sample which is 45,300 Scoville Heat Units, and this also says upload complete, which means that the data has uploaded to Julie, which I will show real quick. So I'll go to Julie, and then I need to hit refresh just so that the latest test appears on my screen, and I named it sauce. And then here you see that peak which is being assessed. So quite straightforward, quite fast, and easy to do.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Solron. I appreciate you staying slightly late in Norway this evening for this demo, but thanks so much. So I think in summary, I mean, this is a very robust piece of technology. What I mean by that is we've done at least 3 tests this afternoon. You know, they all went, you know, super straightforward. I think there's 3 elements to this. There's the sample prep, then there's the sample extraction, and there's the sample test itself. So you can see those 3 elements. You can see that, in fact, it is very quick to run it. We get the number on our phones. If it needs further dilution, the app will tell us, and all the results end up in the cloud anyway. And then once people are up and running, then we start giving them the kind of advanced training in order to help them out with things like precision. But if you've got any questions regarding FoodSense Generation 4 and the testing of food ingredients, I would just basically say don't hesitate to contact us. I want to just say a special thank you to Solron. I know she's going to go home and have her tea. I'm going to go downstairs and kick some football around in the garden. So take care and have a good day. Okay, thanks very much.